Most respected Thai, dear Sangha, I have a legacy of questions from yesterday, question and answers. Some things about our mind and our body, using our mind to help our body. But we did look at this mind-body problem a little bit on the first day, and we did see that the mind and the body are two aspects of the same reality. According to science, matter is a kind of condensed energy, but it's still energy. And in our meditation, we have felt our body probably as energy. And our mind is also energy. So it seemed that body and mind, they are like two doors going into the same reality. And you can go through the door of body if you feel like it, or you can go through the door of mind. But in fact, the place you arrive at is the same place, whichever door you go through. And if you imagine a circle, a cycle, then on that cycle, the mind, it influences the body, and then the body influences the mind. And then the mind, the body, and the body, the mind, and they're in a constant cycle of influencing each other. So you can choose which door you want to go through. You can use your mind energy, your feeling energy, to help your body, or you can use your body energy to help your feelings, to help your mind. And then this is a little bit linked to questions about how we practice with ill health. So one time Thai said that for as long as Thai can practice, Thai does not consider that Thai is in ill health. So as long as we can practice, we're very lucky. And we all know that, as I'm sure we already heard yesterday, that any time we could die, any time we could fall ill. We don't know when it'll happen, but it could happen today, tomorrow, in 6 years' time. None of us know. So in fact, we're all in the same position. You may go to the doctor, and the doctor says to you, "My dear friend, I'm sorry I have to tell you this, but in the situation you're in, normally people would not live for more than 3 months." But in fact, when the doctor is saying that, he is not aware how long he's going to live. I mean, he could walk out of his doctor's surgery and be knocked down by a car. He doesn't know. So doctors have to be a little bit careful when they say things like that, because, as we said, the mind and the body inter-are. And sometimes the mind think, "Oh, I'm going to die in 3 months," and as a result of that kind of thinking, they may die. When Stephen Hawking was diagnosed with motor neuron disease, and he heard he had 3 months left to live, he said to himself, "Oh, it can't be true. I'm just getting into some very interesting research. I've just fallen in love with somebody. I don't believe it." And then he lived many, many years after that. So we have to be a little bit careful sometimes of what the doctors say. Nevertheless, we all know that there will be a time when we fall sick, when we die, and therefore we want to make the most of every second, every step, every breath that we can still make. Because while we can walk, while we can breathe, like Thai said, we are still in good health. And we can use those things to practice and to bring us a lot of freedom and joy. Thai had a student who was a lay practitioner in Montreal, and he had been diagnosed with cancer, and his doctors told him he had 3 months to live. So his friends suggested to him that Thai is coming to Canada, so please go to the retreat. And the friends all said, please, they said to Thai, please talk to this friend, he only had 3 months to live. So they organized the tea meditation, and Thai was sitting next to the friend. And he said, 3 months, 3 years, and 30 years, that is not our concern at the moment. Our concern is being able to drink a cup of tea. So let's drink this cup of tea and enjoy every moment of tea drinking together. Thai is here, the Sangha is here, the tea is here. This is all we have to enjoy. So the friend practiced very well, enjoyed the tea very much, and with instruction continued to enjoy every moment of life, which was so precious. And he lived 15 years after that, not 3 months. And he could have lived longer, but unfortunately he had some difficulties in his family, which brought back the recurrence of the cancer, and he did not survive after that. But he had 15 wonderful years because he was ordained as an OI member with the name Chunsin to True Life. And he wrote many beautiful practice songs for the children in Canada, in French, and in Vietnamese. So, yeah. That is how we can practice with ill health. There is another level of practicing with ill health. There is a sutra called the Sutra on the Great Emptiness. And in that sutra, the Buddha says, there is a death, there is old age, decay of the body. But people ask the question, who is it that dies? Who is it whose body decays? And if you can answer this question, then you won't suffer because of dying. You won't suffer because of old age. You can put an end to old age and death if you can answer this question. So normally when we get sick, we say something like, I am sick. And when we get old, we say, I am old. And maybe on your deathbed you say, I am dying. But if we look according to the teachings of the Buddha, we might say, who is this I who is dying? Who is this I who has ill health? And it's very difficult to find that I. You can find the ill health, you can find the pain, you can find the disability, but you can't find the I. So we could say there is ill health, but there is no one who has ill health. There is no separate self. And maybe sometimes you've had the flu or something worse than the flu, and you've just been feeling so unwell. And at that time, you ask yourself, who is this feeling unwell? And you can't find it, but you can really get in touch with the feeling unwell. And when I practice like that, there's just this feeling of being unwell. There's no one who feels unwell. I feel a tremendous kind of relief. I don't worry about being unwell anymore. It's just something very natural that has happened because of a number of causes and conditions. And there's no I in it that's going to be destroyed by the unwellness. There's no I need to protect. I just need to practice being unwell, being there in the present moment. So I've never had, the question was about serious life-threatening disease. Well, I haven't experienced that. I'm only talking from my experience of flu and things like that. But I just hope that if I have some life-threatening disease, that I will be able to practice the same. I won't have to get involved with an I who is unwell and be unhappy because that I is suffering. And also in the work of Asanga, the master, the Buddhist Yogacara master, he said there is happiness, there is suffering, but there isn't someone who is happy and someone who is suffering. Happiness and suffering are just there because of causes and conditions, and we can enjoy them in mindfulness without getting caught up in the idea of I. So I think that is another way that we can use to practice with ill health. There is no I who is in ill health. And if you read in the chanting book, the teachings to be given to the sick, then you also hear many times, these eyes are not me, I am not caught in these eyes. It's said that the Theravada Buddhist master in Thailand, Buddhadasa, when he was very sick, he used to look at his body every day and look at it, oh, this body is decaying. He was able to see there is decay, the body is decaying without getting caught in the idea, oh, it's me, I am the one who's decaying. And so he did not have to suffer psychologically because of that practice. And all of us can learn to practice like that. And we don't, of course, wait until we hear the diagnosis. We begin to practice like that now. Not to identify ourselves with our body, not to identify ourselves with our ill health or our good health. So we've also been talking about signs quite a bit. We talk about the cloud being a sign and turning into the rain. But we should remember that the rain is also a sign, because the rain will become the river, and the river is also a sign. So you may say, well, I'm not caught in my cloud anymore. I can see that the cloud is the rain, but you may get caught in the rain. And then you're back in the same position maybe that you were in the first place. So the Buddha has taught the three doors of liberation for us to practice in our meditation. So these three meditations are emptiness, signlessness, and aimlessness. So this morning, when we had the ceremony, we chanted the heart of the insight that brings us to the other shore. And while we were chanting, we heard the word emptiness. This body itself is emptiness, and emptiness itself is this body. This body is not other than emptiness, and emptiness is not other than this body. And so that is the meditation on the first door of liberation. And we have to be a little bit careful when we use the word emptiness, because sometimes people think that emptiness means nothingness. And if we think that, then we get caught in nihilism, or that nothing really is. But the reason why in the Heart Sutra, in the insight that brings us to the other shore, we say form is emptiness, this body is emptiness, but emptiness is this body, which means that without emptiness you couldn't have a body, and without your body you couldn't have emptiness. You have to have something that is empty in order for there to be emptiness. Emptiness is not some abstract concept that can exist on its own. So you have to have a body. You have to understand your body, look deeply into your body in order to know what emptiness is. So what do we mean when we say that the body is empty? When you say that the vase is empty, you mean that it's empty of something. It's empty of flowers. It's empty of water. But it's not empty of air. So when we hear that this body is emptiness, we have to ask, what is this body empty of? And the body is empty of a separate self. The body is not a separate self. The flower is empty. What is it empty of? A separate self. The flower is made of the sunshine, the air, the earth, the seed. And if you remove any of those things, the flower will collapse. And your body is also like that. It is made of your mother, your father, your ancestors, the air, the water, the food. And if you remove any of those things, your body will collapse. So that is what is meant by emptiness. It means that you are made up of everything that is not yourself. And your body is empty of one thing, and that is I, or myself, or a separate self. So emptiness is emptiness of a separate self. And the easiest way to understand emptiness is to understand into being. This is because that is. The flower inter-is with the air, with the water, with the sky. And when you understand that, you understand that the flower is empty. So we'll learn to look at everything like this, and then we can realize the first door of liberation, emptiness. And the second door of liberation, signlessness, is closely connected to emptiness. Signlessness means that in order to be able to conceive something with our mind, in order to be able to talk about something, we have to give it a sign. We have to give it many signs. And without signs, we wouldn't have a language. We wouldn't be able to conceptualize. So we have to have signs. But the problem is, like it says in the Diamond Sutra, where there is a sign, there is a deception. So whenever we see a sign and we believe in the reality of that sign, we're being deceived because we are not able to see that thing is much more than the sign. Somebody I haven't got it now. Okay. Somebody gave me a poem. I don't have it now. I thought it was in my pocket. Sorry. I was going to read it to you, but no, I don't have it. So it's something like this. The people that you are grieving for, they have not gone anywhere. They are walking in the valleys. Their tears are present in the rain. It's very beautiful. It's about signlessness. So in that poem, it talks about many signs that you can conceive of the person you have lost, and you can talk about the person you have lost because you have managed to touch them in more signs than you were able to touch them when they were alive. So when my mother was alive, and I was living in the United States, sometimes I did not see her for 4 years, because it's quite a long journey from the United States to England. And I always used to think, oh, what a shame, I can't see my mother. She's sitting over in England and I'm thousands of miles away. So that is because I was caught in a certain sign of my mother sitting in her kitchen or wherever in England. And so I was sad because of that. So after my mother died, I felt a big relief because I thought, I don't have to go anywhere to be in touch with her. I can be in touch with her right here and now. Because I cannot, she's no longer caught in that sign. She can't be. Her body is not there anymore in that sign. So it released me from being in touch with a certain sign of my mother. But then I have to be careful and not get caught in another sign. And in order to do that, I have to touch a level that is called signlessness. And because signs have to do with perception and concepts and words, signlessness is a meditation that goes beyond concepts and goes beyond words and beyond our normal kind of perceptions. And when we write a poem about how we've got in touch with our loved one, how we got in touch with our loved one walking in the valleys or their tears in the rain, that is a way which we come back from our meditation and we try and put it into words. So we touch the level of non-discrimination, non-conceptualization, and then we come out of that level and we try and put it into concepts, put it into words, which we hope we will offer to people, and it will help them through those words and concepts to be able to go back to the level of non-discrimination, non-conceptualization. So whenever someone we love has died, we talk about the game of hide and seek, but we have to realize in this sense that hide and seek is not looking for some sign, but it's being able to go back and touch the signless, and then out of the signless to be able to find words and concepts which can describe that. And in the teachings of Nagarjuna, we talk about the 8 no's. It also helps us to meditate on signlessness. So we have to say no. No birth, no death, no being, no non-being, no coming, no going, no same, no different. And there are other opposites besides these, like above, below, right, left, inside, outside. And they go along with these. So as long as we have ideas of inside and outside, same or different, then still we are caught in sign. So our meditation on signlessness has to go beyond these pairs of opposites. Like when we do the meditation this morning, my father's back and my back, my father's lungs and my lungs. There's also, during that we have to go beyond, same and different. We see clearly that we are not different from our mother and our father. In fact, I think the reason that Thai gave us that meditation was to push us out of the idea that we are different from our mother and our father. Normally, in the beginning, that is what we think. Oh, my mother's like that, my father's like that, and I'm not like that, I'm different. So most people, they need help in being pushed out of thinking they're different. And the reason for that meditation is to push you out of that idea. It's not to push you into the idea that you're the same. Because when we look deeply, we know that our mother and our father had suffering. And in many cases, that suffering has been handed on to us. But we can transform that suffering because we have met the practice, and maybe our father and mother hadn't met the practice. So in that case, we are not exactly the same as our mother and father. So I think Nagarjuna and also the Buddha said that you are caught in the idea that things have a separate self. The Buddha has a teaching to help you get out of being caught in the idea that things have a separate self. And that is the teaching of interbeing and emptiness. But if after that you get caught in the idea of emptiness, the Buddha doesn't have a teaching to help you get out of that. So it's a more difficult situation. It's in fact preferable to be caught in the idea of a separate self than it is to be caught in an idea of emptiness. Because emptiness goes beyond concepts and ideas. And signlessness is the same. These are meditations like medicines, to help us get out of certain difficulties, certain sicknesses that we have. They are not absolute things to be clung to in their own right. So whenever you do a meditation like the one we did this morning on your back and your father's back, it is to liberate you from your knowledge that you normally have, your way of looking that you normally have. And if at the end of it you feel liberated, you feel you've taken another step on the ladder toward liberation, then meditation has helped you. But if every time you do the meditation you get to the same point, you see the same thing, then the meditation has not helped you. So I've done that meditation, I don't know if I've done it 100 times, but I can't count how many times. So every time I see something that I hadn't seen before. In Buddhism we talk about the obstacle of knowledge. And we have a realization. We think, oh, I've realized something. And it becomes part of our possession, our knowledge that we possess. And it stops us from taking another step further and seeing deeper. So Thai has been teaching about this in Plum village recently. And Thai has said that we should not talk about the highest understanding. Because when you say highest, you have the idea that there is a thing that you can reach. And when you reach that point, you can't go any higher. When your understanding reaches that point, it can't go any higher. But that will mean you can't take another step on the ladder. You get stuck. So we have to let go of this idea that there's some highest understanding, and we should practice more with the idea that there's limitless understanding, and we never come to the end of understanding. We never reach the highest point. And the third door of liberation is called aimlessness. And this has something to do with our non-dualistic way of looking. Someone once said, one astronomer once said that you come to a foreign shore where you've never been before, and you see in the sand a footstep, and then you recognize that that footstep is your own footstep, although you'd never been to that shore before. And we can understand why an astronomer might say something like that. It's because he looked at a telescope and things are so far away. We think we've never ever been there before. We're seeing these things so far away for the first time. But somehow our footstep is already there in that distant galaxy. And so we say that the consciousness and the object of consciousness are not two separate things. Wherever there is a consciousness, there is the object of consciousness. And where there's an object of consciousness, there is a consciousness. In neuroscience, sometimes people are caught in the idea that there is consciousness which is inside of the human being, and then outside there is an objective world. And sometimes when someone is very sick, they lie on their bed and they can look down and see their sick body. So it means that somehow I consciousness isn't somewhere inside of our brain only. But that is only an example. But even so, now in neuroscience, they also recognize that the object of consciousness is not possible without the consciousness. The two things arise together. So if you ask the question, in the forest, a tree falls down, and there's no one there to hear the sound of the tree. Does it make a noise? And according to neuroscience, the answer is it doesn't make a noise. Because a noise only possible because of our ear consciousness. There isn't something called noise, which is possible without our ears and our ear consciousness. So this is the same as even in the time of the Buddha, they also said the same thing, that the noise and the consciousness, they arise together. The noise is possible because of the consciousness is possible because of the noise. The two things depend on each other. So everything is available in our consciousness. We don't need to go running after anything anymore. We don't need to aim for anything anymore, put anything in front of us and then go and get it. We already have that. That is already available in our consciousness. And when somebody has the realization that the object of consciousness and the perceiver and the perceived are one and the same, then that person no longer needs to keep running after something outside of them. And most of us, we are running after something we think that will make us happy in the future. And it may be something very elevated, like enlightenment. It may be something very mundane, like a new car, but still it is running outside of ourselves for something that we have to have in order to be happy. So aimlessness is a very wonderful meditation that can help us relax and let go. And especially let go of all our longing, all our desiring, all our wanting something. In this word aimlessness in Sanskrit is apranihita. Means not. Pranihita is to put something in front of you and to aim for it. So this means not aimlessness, wishlessness. But there's another word in Sanskrit, it's the same root, it's called pranidhana. And it means a vow. It means to make a vow. Like you did this morning when you received the 5 mindfulness trainings. You vow to do your best to study and practice the mindfulness trainings. That we call pranidhana. So this is the kind of the opposite of this. Because the a means not. So you have to learn to practice 2 opposite things. Aimlessness and the 5 mindfulness trainings, your deep vow. And making a vow has always been important in the practice. Like the children, I promised to develop my understanding. It's a very deep practice to make a vow. Some people, they have the Dharma name true vow. Somebody has the Dharma name true vow. And I think in terms of neuroscience, we probably understand why it's such an important practice. Because when we make a deep vow with our whole body, speech and mind, then at that point it kind of makes a neural pathway that in the future we will be able to travel along that pathway. And in the one of the sutras on the Pure Land, it says, when somebody make the deep vow to be born in the Pure Land, then that person is immediately born in the Pure Land. So what this means is that when you make the vow, you're already really there already. So it's not something in front of you to aim for. But it's something that, because you've made the vow, it will be easier for you to go on that path. And you've already taken an important step in that direction. So when we vow something, we are really concentrated. And often our concentration is very deep. It goes beyond conceptualization. We start with the concept that we want to do something for the happiness of ourselves and the world. And then when we actually concentrate on making that vow, we go beyond the concept. And it's like it waters a seed that's very deep in our consciousness. So in Buddhism, we told you before that there are 4 kinds of food, and we talked about the consciousness food. And there's another food, it's called volition. That is our deepest aspiration, our deepest desire. And it's sometimes difficult to see what our deepest desire is, the food of our deepest desire, because we have all kinds of little desires that cover it up. And maybe we have suffering too that covers up, and memories from our past, and the influence of our society that covers up what our deepest vow is. And we need every one of us to find out that. And in order to be able to, once we've discovered consciously what our deepest desire is, then we'll have a great deal of freedom and space in order to realize our deepest desire. And some people, sometimes, they realize their deepest desire, what it is, but they are a little bit afraid because they feel that to go in the direction of that deepest desire, they have to give up certain things that they don't want to give up. So it's okay. it's okay if you recognize this is your deepest desire, but you don't want to give up certain things that you need to give up in order to go in that direction. It's okay to give yourself time, as long as you know that that desire is there. Actually letting go, giving up things, can bring us a lot of happiness. Sometimes we cling to something because we really believe that this will make us happy. But our very clinging to that thing is what is stopping us from being happy. And when we can let go of our idea that we really need to have this, then we can begin to feel free and happy. So it's a good exercise sometimes to sit with a pencil and a piece of paper and to write down, what are the things I feel I really need to be happy? And then look at what those things are and ask yourself, if I let go of this, what will it mean? And will it be the door to my real happiness if I can let go of this thing I really think I need to be happy? And that is also the practice of aimlessness. We can let go of these things we're aiming for to be happy, because we realize that everything we need to be happy is already there. We already have it. It's already there in our consciousness. So a couple of people, they ask questions about refugees and migrants. And the question generally is, how can I best help the refugees from Syria or from anywhere else, and the migrants? So in Germany, they also ask this question a lot. Many people in Europe are asking this question now. So there are many people who have this concern. Maybe in your Sangha there are people who have this concern. So the first thing I think is always to come back to ourselves and come back to the practice of the first 3 of the 14 mindfulness trainings. And that is the development of non-discrimination, non-dualism, no dogmatism, so that we are not caught in discriminating against people because they come from a different part of the world. But we also have different kinds of discrimination and dogmatism, each one of us in us. So we all need to work on transforming that seed in ourselves. And even if the seed of discrimination and dogmatism is not manifesting in our individual consciousness, it's quite strong in the collective consciousness. So we have to take care of it in our own individual consciousness. And the second thing that is important is education. Many people discriminate out of ignorance, and we need to help to educate each other. And this is also maybe something to do with the question about fracking too. We need to find skillful ways to educate others. And it's difficult to do this on our own, but we can do it more easily as a Sangha. So if you have an idea of some project or some way that you have found to help refugees, maybe you found that not through your Sangha, but you found it through an organization which is helping refugees. Or you can think of a wonderful way to educate people more about the dangers of fracking. And then you can bring to your Sangha, and you can find out in your Sangha other members of the Sangha who have the same concerns. And you can sit down together, and you can use your Sangha eyes. Always better than 2 eyes. It's 4 eyes, 6 eyes, 10 eyes, always better. And look deeply, what joyful way can we express our concern to help educate people, or at least to help us feel that we're doing our best. So there are many things depending on your own kind of skills, your own talents in the Sangha. What is the best way to try and help educate other people, or try and relieve the suffering, try and raise money to relieve the suffering, or do whatever you can. And also you can volunteer often to help teaching English. And there are many things you can do. But the main thing is that when you do these things, you do them with joy, and they nourish you. And when they nourish you, they will nourish the other people as well. And it's not so much in the beginning to think, will it have a very large effect? But if it has a small effect, it's also rewarding enough. And the more of us who in the Sangha who can join together to give the collective energy in this kind of issue, like the issue of refugees or fracking, and we do it together, then we don't get burned out. Don't allow each other to get burned out. Remind each other when you're getting too serious, and find something light to do together. Somebody asked a question, how can we help our loved one who cannot breathe and who we have a very difficult relationship before that? So if I have a loved one who could not breathe, the first thing I'd want to do is I want to enjoy every breath that I could for them, and to breathe for them. And if I had a difficult relationship, then I would need to come to that person's bedside, and even if they're not conscious, then I would still feel that they can somehow, at some level of their consciousness, they can hear, and I would come and I would speak in their ear, and I would express all my regret for my unskillful actions that I had done in our relationship. And I would also water the flowers of that person and express my appreciation for everything that that person had done for me in my life. It's like practicing the first 2 parts of beginning anew. Yeah, I think that the store consciousness, as long as someone is, I presume this person who can't breathe anymore is still alive. If they're not alive, then you need to write these things to them, write a letter about your unskillfulness, your express regret for your unskillfulness, and also water that person's flowers. But if they are on some artificial means helping them to breathe, then they're still conscious. You can talk in their ear, and the store consciousness still can hear. And last question, how do you stop your mind? So I don't think you can really turn it off. I think what it means is how to stop some kind of thinking, some kinds of thinking. I also used to have a deep desire when I was young. I first met Buddhism. How can I stop thinking? I tried very hard to stop thinking. It wasn't very effective. Like a bit of a fight. There was the thinking and I was the one fighting against it. The best thing is when the thinking it stops. It just stops. Sometimes you're really interested in something. You concentrate and you don't think, but you don't have to make an effort because you're so interested in what you're concentrating on. So if you're going to meditate, try and find a subject that's very interesting for you. And then you can use your thinking just to help fuel your concentration. And you may like to walk in nature, and you just stop and allow yourself to be deeply in touch with the trees and the flowers. And it's so interesting, it's so lovely to watch the trees and the flowers that you no longer need to think about them. You can just breathe with them. So the main thing about meditation is that it should be nourishing. It should bring you happiness, liberation. And we need to be a little bit creative because everyone is different and everyone has different ways of coming into concentration and meditation. So if you can't think for yourself, what is the best way for me to really enjoy meditating? Maybe my eyes open, looking at the trees is a wonderful meditation for me. And I can use thinking to a certain extent. The first level of concentration in Buddhism, you use the thinking. The only thing, it's right thinking. It's not the kind of thinking that goes in circles and you get caught in going round and round and round. So there's nothing wrong with thinking. One of the Noble Eightfold Path is right thinking. It's just that wrong thinking makes you suffer and make other people suffer. So when we recognize we have wrong thinking, we have to stop it as soon as we can by thinking about something different, by breathing. Thank you.